everyone. Welcome to Rash's World. Today we have a special filmmaker, a guest here, Casey Carter. How are you doing today?
Good, good. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. I want to talk about your documentary, To Use a Mountain. It won the Special Jury Award at Vision du Réel in Switzerland, so congrats to that.
Thank
It's a
you.
really well-made documentary, but what is it about? It all starts pretty much with the 1982 Nuclear Waste Policy Act. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And
Yeah.
what happened then?
So in 1982, the United States Congress passed the Nuclear Waste Policy Act, which basically told the Department of Energy to uh, look across the country and identify candidates for a deep geologic repository for nuclear waste, and to analyze those candidate sites and to make their determination as to which of those candidate sites would ultimately be selected for this sacrificial nuclear dumping ground.
And that's the amazing thing. It's a competition that no one wants to win. I love that point you're making. So there are six rural communities, and how did they respond to being chosen, quote unquote, for this place, for a burial ground, permanent burial ground?
Well, none of them were very happy about it, as you can imagine.
Exactly. Yes.
Um, so, the film is kind of structured as this journey across these six different places, and um, in each of these places, we meet with people in the present day and kind of, hear about their memory of what this
Hmm.
moment was like,
Hmm.
but also gain some understanding of the environment in the present moment. Um, and in a few of the sites which have a more current and enduring connection with U.S. nuclear program, nuclear weapons, nuclear energy. Um, the film kind of switches from being about memory to being about the present and the enduring consequences and circumstances and ongoing issues that people are facing.
And there are a few things I really like because each of these communities come together in a common cause. And it's even though they might disagree on other stuff, but suddenly they're together during that time period and even after, currently too. And then the other thing, each place is presented as a character. And so you kind of identify with them. And there was one closer to where I live. And I was like, please, not that one. Please don't select that one. So it's like, I thought it was really well made because making a movie on nuclear waste does not sound exciting generally, but this was really well made in that sense where it's kind of tense. You don't know who they're going to choose. There's
Right,
suspense in it too.
right, right. Yeah, and each section of the film where you get to spend time with
Hmm.
people in each of these
Hmm.
places um, has its own special quality. It's not just about repeating the same story or digging into this issue of nuclear waste. It's also about experiencing this place and connecting with the voices of the communities in each of these places.
And each one has their individual personality in the makeup too, and what they stand for, and their community and their traditions. So it's also a glimpse into rural life, communities. I thought that was very fascinating too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the fact that each of these communities, all a part of the United States, are vastly different. There's a great diversity
Hmm.
across our
Yes.
rural communities.
Yeah.
Um, and and the film puts those communities in one way or another in a kind of context of solidarity. And I think
Mhm.
that's one of the things that's kind of beautiful and inspiring about this story as well, is
Exactly.
it cuts through uh, what might ordinarily divide us and shows us a common set of connected concerns rooted
Mhm.
in, you know, uh, health and preservation of our environments and communities and histories.
Yeah, people coming together. What shocked me, but didn't surprise me too much, was the public hearings, which did not include hearings. People were not heard, and there were no testimonies. So it just kind of seems like, show, we did our part. Now we're going to decide, and we don't really care what you guys think. It kind of felt like that.
Right, right. Yeah, no, and that's what we hear from the excerpt from Judy Trikel in Nevada from the hearing on the Yucca Mountain project.
Hmm. Hmm.
And there were hearings, but everyone who was involved in those hearings felt that they were not getting a fair process.
That's right.
And that's the sentiment that Judy is expressing in the film. The fact that she says I think something like these hearings are the most important part of this project and process, um, and and she's criticizing the Department of Energy for conducting them in a way that did not really do justice to um, the process of engaging with the community and hearing the community concerns. Yeah,
Mhm. Exactly. Hearing their concerns, acknowledging them, and so the nuclear power used here before previously for bombs and here for maybe so defense of then for electricity and so on. But it seems like why my question was also as I was watching, why do we still have nuclear testing nowadays? I'm like it, I don't know if you can address that, but I'm just thinking, what's the point of that? And then also, I learned about groundwater pollution and those kind of things that happen. So, why do we do that? Do you know?
yeah. I mean, some of these nuclear sites across the country are, uh, the most contaminated places in the
Yeah.
country and the world, like Hanford nuclear site, where they're talking about the groundwater pollution. Um, and the nuclear testing at the Nevada National Security Site, formerly known as the Nevada Test Site. Um, the testing that occurs there currently is not what we see in the film from the historic images of the atmospheric tests and then also the
Hmm. Hmm.
underground tests, but they do still continue what's called subcritical nuclear testing, where they partially detonate bombs underground and then they use computer models to extrapolate the results of the explosion if it were to
Hmm.
have been fully detonated. Um, and but there has been talk in recent years about resuming nuclear testing underground, or
Hmm.
resuming
Hmm.
at least nuclear testing readiness. And this is part of the increasing the posturing of the militarism of all of the wars that we're seeing around the world, and just the uh, yeah, the brazen irresponsibility of pushing us to the brink of nuclear
Hmm.
conflict.
And so anything good too. I mean, for electricity, it's magnificent. I think it's a very good thing, but it has side effects, which is again the waste that you're talking about. And they're planning to bury them for 10,000 years.
That's right. Yeah, I
I'm
mean the
not sure we'll
byproduct.
be around. I'd give us like a couple hundred years, but 10,000, yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, the byproducts of the nuclear reactors are radioactive for at least 10,000 years, and some of the byproducts for much longer than that. But the containment criteria that the Department of Energy has set for the nuclear waste storage is this 10,000 year horizon. Um, so it's pretty crazy. We haven't figured out how to deal with it, and it's a problem that we have to figure out how to safely manage for 10,000 years, which is quite a bit longer than any of our civilizations have been around.
Yeah, I mean, we're worrying about plastic, but this is something that lasts much longer than that too. And also, you were not only here the filmmaker, the director, but also the cinematographer and editor. And I really applaud that because that means you're taking it very seriously, and it shows too, like the shots you chose and the editing. How was that process? Was it difficult to do all these things at the same time? Most likely, I assume it is.
It's difficult, but it was also intuitive.
Okay,
There's a
interesting.
different difficulty in splitting those. It's like splitting your brain into different
Hmm.
pieces.
Hmm.
If you're an editor like I am,
Hmm.
if you're a cinematographer like I am, having a background in photography, these things are all connected in my mind.
Hmm.
And as I'm doing the research, as I'm working through the archive, as I'm in the field shooting, conducting the interviews, all of these materials are there. Like the ideas are developing themselves in my mind, and the most direct way to materialize them is to just do them, just to make them myself. And I worked with many great collaborators to get feedback on the edit over the number of years that it took to pull this film together, and then other post-production collaborators to really help move through the kind of complex post-production process. Um, but yeah, for me, it was much more intuitive to just um, take on the entire process and just push my ideas forward by holding each of those three roles
Hmm.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, and I found it inventive to have those graphs. I mean, for someone who's not good at all in geography, it really helped me to place things. But it was also inventive in like adding, it's not just the interviews, but adding here images and visual stuff to it. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a huge from the very beginning, I had the idea that a major part of the visual language of the film would be
Mhm,
bringing these documents to life,
mhm,
and to create this comparison between this kind of cold and bureaucratic voice that exists in
mhm,
the government text and in the maps that are brought to life through these animations,
mhm,
with
right.
the portraits of the communities and the landscapes, um,
Mhm,
which are more um, emotional and visceral and humanistic.
mhm. And as a documentary filmmaker, who would be certain influences that you look at? I mean, I'm thinking of Ken Burns with like using talking about people and so on, as well as maybe Errol Morris and so on. So who would be any specific influences you would say?
Errol Morris, that's a good, you're, yeah, very keen interpretation there, because one of the big influences I would say was Vernon, Florida by Errol Morris,
Oh yeah.
um, which is just a great, such an endearing portrait of a place. Um, and so I had that film in my mind a lot making this film. But then a couple of other films, the Illinois Parables by Deborah Stratman, which is a series of historical vignettes that all take place in Illinois, and they deal with um, geography and power and technology, and they just go in a sequence. They're kind of abstract vignettes that go in a chronological sequence, and it's just all of these sort of surreal historical uh, moments that
Mhm.
all take place within the state of Illinois. And then one other is the Prison in 12 Landscapes by Brett Story, um, which is about 12 different landscapes across the country, where the prison industrial complex kind of uh, materializes in all ways except for the prison itself. So the film is about showing how this institution and this network of institutions exists through all of this other supporting infrastructure that is spread out across the country. And it's not just the prison, but it's all of the social and economic and political networks that support that system.
I'll have to check them out now. They're on my list. Thanks
Yeah,
so much.
great
And
films.
final question here. Why the title To Use a Mountain? And maybe I would have said To Abuse a Mountain and to
All right.
abuse
Right.
communities, but why that specific title?
Yeah, that came from the kind of very first production trip out in Nevada, um, talking to someone about their, childhood, like just camping and hiking in the area, and how the Air Force in that area in southern Nevada had just kind of expanded the scope of the land that they were um, holding for their training and testing.
Mhm.
Um, and just talking about how some of the places that she used to like to visit as a kid, she can't go to anymore. Um, and at some point, she said something like, "I don't want to use a mountain. I just want to do this or do that." And I was like, "Use a mountain, yeah, to use a mountain." And it was a tentative title at first, and it stuck.
Yeah, no, I love it, especially with this explanation. It adds so much to it. Thanks so much, filmmaker Casey Carter here. You're the director, cinematographer, editor of To Use a Mountain, which I highly recommend. And thank you so much for being here on Arash's World.
Thank you, Arash.